Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Is Angel Reese about to be traded from the Chicago Sky? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it so much. Let's get going. Chicago Sky facing Angel Reese trade decision after injury news. So what is this about? As you probably know, um, Courtney Vandersloot tore her ACL in the game against the Indiana Fever. Unfortunately, I feel bad for her. Courtney Vandersloot has been a fantastic, underrated point guard in the WNBA for a long time. Okay. We can take Caitlin Clark out of the equation, and I'm still not selecting Chelsea Gray as my point guard because I'm selecting Courtney Vandersloot. She was going to be kind of phased out in New York, so she went to Chicago, starting point guard there with a team that's struggling, obviously, and non-contact injury uh, tore her ACL, which is really unfortunate. I don't know. I hope she's able to come back. I hope she has it in her to come back and be ready to play in 2026 and, at least get one more year in and go out on her terms after the career she had. She deserves that. But now, of course, because of that, the Chicago Sky have some serious issues. Now, they're 2-5. Both wins are against the Dallas Wings. Um, the 79 points they gave up to Indiana was actually a season low for them defensively, which is wild because Indiana's offense was not great. They only took 59 shots, which would be, you know, dead last by like 4 shots a game if that were the average for the season. They only scored 52, which is wild. That's the franchise's lowest output since 2011. And, they lost Courtney, as I talked about, 12 points and 6.2 assists in those 6 games prior to that. And of course, their backup, because they have their other point guard is also injured, Mariah Jefferson. So Haley Van Lith, who really hasn't been playing much, she's was thrust into it, played 26 minutes against the Fever. It's not really fair to judge her on that in that situation, 7.0 assists, because it was a blowout game. The Chicago Sky, the entire team was playing, terrible basketball. But now, and what they're talking about here is to save their season, the Chicago Sky may need to make a trade for another impact point guard. Of course, I'm just putting it out there. From my best understanding of the hardship deals, you cannot directly sign a player to a regular contract from a hardship. So once the Fever have 10 available players back on the roster, whether it's SOphie Cunningham or Caitlin Clark first, Harry McDonald will be off the team. And then I believe it is a 10-day window. Now, what I have not been able to confirm is like when a player gets waived, usually you have in a certain order, they can be picked up by other teams. So, or even if she's completely free to go somewhere else, if someone else in those 10 days offers Arian McDonald a contract that she wants, she's gone, right? Like, so even if the Fever want her back, they're not necessarily going to be able to get her back. Maybe that's an option for the Chicago Sky, and then they don't have to do this. But what they're talking about here is a trade, and they don't have a lot of tradable assets. Basically, as Sky reporter Carly Bell saying here, and I would agree with this, they'd have to give up Angel Reese or Camila Cardoso to really get an impact player. And for me, now again, this is the messy WNBA. I just did a video recently on Angel Reese and an award that she won. So, anything's possible in the WNBA. But for me, I don't think Angel Reese is a tradable asset. I can't think of a team that would so desperately need what she brings, which is basically rebounding and a whole lot of baggage for the locker room. I don't know a team that would want that, which would mean you would be trading Camila Cardoso. And then that means you're going back to Angel Reese being the focal point of the Chicago Sky. And I don't know that that is the best decision for them either. As a Bell wrote here, they absolutely could, but then say goodbye to either Angel Reese or Camila Cardoso. The Sky wanted to go out and get another point guard quickly. This is the fastest way to do it without taking a salary hit. Both Reese and Cardoso are big names that draw in the fans and are absolutely big trade capital for the Sky. Now, I disagree with that. I mean, I agree that those are the tradable assets, or I should say asset, because I don't agree that Angel Reese is a player that teams are looking to add in a trade to give up something of value that the Chicago Sky would want, which would most likely be a point guard. So, yeah, so I don't think Angel Reese is that asset. However, it might make sense to give up. Now, if they can give up Angel Reese for something else, maybe even picks in the future, because the other issue with that I have here, um, that talks about that in Reese, it says Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso need separation as national reporter sheds light on key Chicago concerns. So, what do they need separation about? Unfortunately, now I think, and she hasn't been incredible, although I think part of that is because of having Angel Reese. I think Camila Cardoso is by far the player with the bigger upside compared to Angel Reese and what she brings to the team. That being said, in terms of how they would be used for the Chicago Sky and their skill sets, although I think Camila Cardoso's skill set is much, much better, they are very similar, right? They're both big bodies who play in the post. Neither one really has a game, outside of 12 feet. Angel Reese takes the occasional 3-point shot, but that's it. But 95. I mean, she leads the league in layups attempted, right, and shots inside 5 feet. So it's obvious that that's where both of them play. So that's a very difficult offense to run when your two focal points really are both under the basket post players. So you don't need two players like that. In fact, it makes it very difficult because it clogs up the lane. If you've got guards that are able to penetrate and get in the lane, there's traffic there. There's no space in order to do that, right? When you look at, say, the Indiana Fever, when they have the right players on the court and they're allowed and they're not, feeding the post to Aaliyah Boston and she comes out, whether it's on the pick and roll or what have you, or maybe Damiris Dantas it is, you have an entire team of players that if they're all outside the 3-point line, as a defense, you need to pay attention to them. So if Caitlin Clark has the ball, or even if it's SOphie Cunningham or Kelsey Mitchell, there is space in order to drive. And if the defense is going to drop a little bit in coverage in order to clog that lane to help on the drive, it's a kick to a wide open player for a three. Chicago does not have that kind of spacing, having Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso on the team. So it's interesting going forward. Now, this article didn't even have doesn't that's talking about this doesn't even have anything to do with what I was just saying about, oh, well, they need to go get a point guard now. It's just the timing of it. So it'll be really interesting. Pay attention going forward. Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso, even if the Chicago Sky aren't putting it out there publicly, may very well be behind the scenes, making phone calls, seeing who is available, what they're willing to take as a package. And regardless of the injury to Courtney Vandersloot, you may very well see before the trade deadline hits, Angel Reese or Camila Cardoso being shipped off to another team so the Chicago Sky can create a different type of offense that focuses on one of them in the post and spreads the floor better for a more effective overall offense. So it's going to be interesting. Keep an eye on that because obviously, that affects the Indiana Fever in a little bit, right? Look, let's face it. I know people say, oh, it's not a rivalry because they're not even close in terms of ability. And I kind of get that. Like, I get that there's a turnoff because it seems like people are trying to manufacture that because of Angel Reese. But in terms of proximity and history, the Sky and the Fever have been a rivalry. And let's face it, Fever fans, y'all tuned in for that second one, even without Caitlin Clark, because you wanted to see a little BTA again on Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky. So there is a rivalry there. And the Fever would get a lot of enjoyment out of seeing Angel Reese shipped off to another team. Let's be honest about that. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on this. Do you think there's a good chance of a trade? And which player do you think they ultimately would ship off that would get them the most value coming back in terms of the Chicago Sky rebuilding and going forward? Let me know in the comments. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Do appreciate you so much. As always, go have the day you deserve. And I will talk to you later.